Korea, 3 Ways to Survive the Apocalypse was once a popular web novel, but after 10 years and over 1,000 chapters, it now has only one reader left, Do-ja. He started reading it in middle school. The story follows Ahn Hyo-seop, a hero who faces divine challenges as the world falls apart. Despite losing companions, Ahn Hyo-seop remains determined to grow stronger. Do-ja found this inspiring, especially during his high school years when he was bullied. After finishing school, Do-ja went to a mediocre college, worked average jobs, and landed a temporary contract with a large company. Today, that contract ends, and so does the novel. After his final shift, Do-ja reads the last chapter and is disappointed by the ending. Ahn Hyo-seop is the only survivor. Frustrated, he messages the author, calling it the worst ending. On the train, he bumps into his co-worker, Sang-ha, whose contract has ended as well. Their conversation is interrupted by their former boss, who keeps flirting with Saw, despite her clear rejections. Thankfully, he exits at the next stop. Just then, Do-ja receives a reply from the author. The message thanks him for reading to the end, and admits that Do-ja was the reason the novel was finished. The author suggests that if Do-ja hated the ending, he should write his own when the service starts at 7 p.m. Suddenly, the train jolts and stops. A voice announces that the free service has ended, and paid content begins. Do-ja checks his phone. It's exactly 7 p.m. The train's atmosphere mirrors the start of the novel. A creature from Korean folklore, the D-cab, appears. When a passenger insults it, the D-cab shoots him in the head with laser eyes. Panic spreads with a terrifying look. The D-cab announces that the gods have deemed humanity unworthy and will punish them. Each person will face a challenge, and how they respond will determine their fate. Holograms appear, outlining the first task. In 10 minutes, passengers must kill a living organism. Those who succeed will earn 300 coins, and those who fail will be killed. The D-cab also warns that the constellations are watching. The train is frozen, along with all the cars, as the timer starts. The passengers check their phones. There's no service. People lose control, fighting each other and forming groups. A woman tries to escape, but a force field traps everyone. Do-ja notices Ahn Hyo-seop in the crowd, realizing they're living the events of the novel, and he knows what will happen next. A massive monster crashes into the train, causing chaos. Do-ja recalls the rule. They must kill any living organism. It doesn't have to be humans. Spotting a kid named Gailong with an ant farm, Do-ja grabs it and offers it to Saw. He kills an ant, and a hologram announces he's earned coins, drawing the crowd's attention. He explains the ants, but there aren't enough to go around. As complaints rise, their former boss steals the ant farm, and the crowd turns on Do-ja. In the midst of the chaos, Do-ja sees a man attacking an elderly lady. He intervenes and offers the man an ant stuck on his hand, but the man rejects it, wanting to kill the woman instead. Do-ja realizes the man is Nam-won, a character from the novel. Nam-won starts attacking Do-ja, claiming he'll be his victim instead. As Do-ja fights to protect himself, he recalls that in the novel, humans have stats, just like in a video game. Do-ja uses the 300 coins to increase his strength, punching Nam-won across the car. But Nam-won activates his Grim Dark Awakening skill, overpowering Do-ja in seconds. Just then, the ant farm drops, and a tube of eggs rolls out. Do-ja destroys it, earning a huge payout of coins. He spends 3,000 on stamina, and another 3,000 on agility, dodging all of Nam-won's attacks, and knocking him down. Terrified, Nam-won promises not to hurt the old lady, and asks for an ant. But Do-ja refuses, saying he doesn't deserve to be part of the story. Do-ja then steps in as a shield for the woman, placing an ant in her hand and closing it before the timer runs out. The voice announces the stage is over, and the losers are killed with holes in their faces. However, the last ant escapes, and the woman dies as well. The D-cab reappears, congratulating the 17 survivors and announcing that the constellations will reward them. Do-ja recalls that the constellations who watch the stages from space and enjoy human suffering. Each survivor is given a list of constellations who want to sponsor them, but Do-ja decides to turn down sponsorship for now. Suddenly, the train tilts as the river monster tries to drag it down. A former soldier, Yeon-song, attempts to open the doors, and Do-ja recognizes him as a character from the novel. As the train touches the water, Do-ja teaches Yeon-song how to use his special skill. As the survivors escape, Do-ja notices Gailong still crying over his ant farm. He apologizes and helps him out. The survivors race to safety, but the voice announces the next stage. They must cross a bridge. The monster smashes a section of the bridge, creating a massive gap. To make things harder, the D-cab drops a train car onto the bridge, and the dead begin chasing the living. Do-ja and Yeon-song fight the attackers, but are easily overpowered. Just when things look bleak, Sa activates her skill and creates a temporary road across the gap. The survivors start running across it, and Do-ja warns them about the poisonous gas that will soon spread. They need to find underground shelter. He suggests heading to the nearest subway station, but remembers that, in the novel, Hyuk dies there while fighting a dragon. Hyuk used a skill to reset the story, causing everyone in the station to die. Do-ja realizes that if they want to survive, they need to keep Hyuk alive, so the story doesn't reset. Meanwhile, Hyuk is using a sword and gun to fight off attackers. He approaches Do-ja, asking what he's done since Namwoon wasn't supposed to die so soon. Do-ja shares the events. Hyuk grabs him by the tie, holding him over the edge, and asks what tactics he should use. Do-ja panics, unsure how to answer Hyuk, but Hyuk tells him to meet later at the station, before dropping him into the water. The monster swallows Do-ja, and he lands in its stomach. The hologram announces the next stage: kill the monster and escape. The decab, narrating for the stream. Do-ja knows Bong is a 9th level decab, aiming to ascend by doing these streams. He points out that Bong's popularity with the constellations will result in backlash if he dies. Bong checks its donations, and sees the constellations love Do-ja, so it agrees to an exclusivity contract. As the monster's stomach fills with acid, Do-ja buys spikes from the decay shop to block the acid ducts, a tactic he learned from the novel. Despite the hundreds of ducts, Do-ja works tirelessly to cover them all, ultimately killing the monster and ending the stage. Do-ja extracts the monster's nucleus and asks Bong to trade it for a rare item, Ether of Faith. Before leaving, Bong gives him an item starter pack, which includes a mask. Do-ja puts it on as poisonous gas begins to spread. He collapses on the shore, turning off sponsorship notifications as he receives many offers. Later, Do-ja stops at a store for food and finds 2 dead girls, with a third barely alive. Suddenly, a monster breaks through the window, and Do-ja grabs the survivor, running for his life. The monster destroys everything in its path, but Do-ja barely manages to get into the subway station, shutting the gate just in time. Inside, a group of thugs surprises him, especially when they see the girl. Hee-won is still alive. Do-ja remembers from the novel that these thugs abused Hye-won. Using 1,500 coins to boost his strength, Do-ja beats up the men. The leader tries to attack, but Do-ja dodges and defeats him. As the rest of the thugs prepare to attack, a group of survivors appears, led by a man with a hoe. This forces the thugs to back off. The group from the train is also there, and Sona reveals that Ahn Hyo, a congressman, leads the survivors in the station. Ahn Hyo has convinced people to hunt monsters and share their coins with the residents. Gilong, now able to befriend insects, has learned a new skill. Do-ja asks about Hyuk, but learns he's not around, making him wonder if his actions have changed the novel's events. Soon, residents are reminded that they need to pay the survival fee in 3 hours. High-level players charge to protect everyone until the monster in the tunnels is defeated. Some desperate people go hunting for coins, but others die in the process. A crowd surrounds Do-ja, demanding he share his coins, assuming he's wealthy from his abilities. When Do-ja asks who started this rumor, In-ho admits it was him. He apologizes and asks Do-ja to help the desperate residents, but Do-ja remembers In-ho's role as a villain in the novel and refuses. It turns out In-ho sold his soul to the constellations, turning into a monster. The crowd goes wild, forcing Do-ja to agree to help by completing the stage instead of giving them his coins. Do-ja assembles a weapon from scrap. Hee-won explains how the thugs killed people for their coins and brought the bodies to the station, pretending to have hunted monsters. Do-ja realizes she was supposed to die in the store. The tunnel is dark, but Gilong summons fireflies to light the way. Soon, a horde of monsters attacks, and a vicious battle begins. The team uses weapons to kill the monsters quickly. Sa discovers her skill allows her to shoot webs, which she uses to attack. The last standing monster captures Hee-won and takes her away. The group chases after it and finds Hye-won tied up at the end of the tunnel. A hologram welcomes them to the ground rat's shrine and tasks them with eliminating the warden of the dark. A larger monster appears, and Do-ja strikes first, dodging its tentacles and attacking with his weapon. However, a force field blocks him, sending him flying. Yunung steps in, landing a few blows, but the monster activates a illusory prison that traps the body and ravages the mind. Those caught in it relive their worst memories until they die. Hee-won is trapped and forced to relive her traumatic experience with In-ho's thugs. Do-ja frees her and rushes to help Gilong, who's also in danger of being trapped. Unfortunately, Yanung is caught and begins begins reliving his worst memories from his time in the army. Do-ja tries to save him, but his attack is blocked, though it dislodges some small rocks. The monster roars and summons minions. Do-ja calls Bong to open the shop and tries to buy White Star Pure Energy, but he's 1,000 coins short. Meanwhile, Haiwon continues fighting the monsters. With a huge leap, she lands on the back of the boss monster. Do-ja follows her lead, killing creatures until he earns the coins he needs. He inserts the White Star into his weapon, granting him a one-time critical hit. Do-ja copies Hee-won's jump and lands a fatal blow on the monster, killing it. The horde flees, and the illusion disappears. Yeonung is freed from his memories. The group checks the treasure chest they earned for completing the mission. Do-ja gets 2 short swords, Yeonung receives a gauntlet, Gilong gets a helmet that boosts his bug skill, and Sa receives a mysterious coat. Do-ja gets a broken sword, which he doesn't explain. It's the broken faith. If he finds Ether of Faith, it will be complete. Gilong asks about the rocks that fell during the fight, and Do-ja explains that eating them puts your mind in an illusion. The station stage isn't over yet though. There's still one monster left. The group rushes back, and Haiwon quickly jumps on the gang leader, killing him in revenge. In-ho sends out the rest of his men. Haiwon gains a new skill from a constellation, allowing her to slice through the thugs in seconds. In-ho, desperate, uses his monstrous strength to attack Haiwon, but she keeps up and pushes him to the rails. Just as she's about to kill him, the residents stop her, explaining that they don't want to clear this stage. They believe the next one will be harder, so it's easier to pay the daily fee. They were hoping Do-ja's group would be killed by the monster so they could collect their coins. The voice announces that it's time to pay. In-ho uses the distraction to push Hee-won off and runs away. Sa shoots her web, and Haiwon swings across the tunnel to catch him, but a force field throws her back. In-ho mocks them for losing, but suddenly he's shot in the head by a sniper, ending the stage. The sniper introduces herself as G, and she takes all of In-ho's coins. The team tries to leave, but a barrier still blocks them. G explains that they only finished the previous stage, and during the chase, crossed into a new one. To leave, they must finish the new stage. G leaves, and Do-ja realizes that she's another character, Yoon Hyuk's apprentice, and the last survivor of her class. The voice in the station announces that there are 104 survivors, but only 52 tiny green zones available. The survivors have 10 minutes to reach a zone before the monsters appear. A gang led by Pildu has locked down a VIP area, charging coins for access. Pildu has installed a security system that shoots anyone trying to sneak in without paying. Do-ja tells his team to split up and find green zones. G reappears with a message from Young Hyuk. He agrees to fight together, but Do-ja will have to survive alone for the night. This reminds Do-ja of his high school friend, who slapped him to stop the bullies, saying at least one of them should survive. Using his knowledge, Do-ja heads to a specific spot that hasn't turned green yet. Bong announces that some green zones will disappear and new ones will appear, adding more tension. The spot beneath Do-ja turns green, and he tells his team to fight for survival. However, Haiwon chooses to fight the monsters instead. As the 10 minutes run out, the monsters emerge, killing anyone not in a green zone. Do-ja decides to help Hee-won and follows his team. Do-ja believes that the green zones will appear in dangerous areas to make the show more entertaining. The group splits up to fight the monsters, with Do-ja's team holding their own. To his surprise, Young Hyuk is waiting by one of the portals, guarding a 2-person green zone. He tells Do-ja he'll only fight the monster with him if he abandons Gilong. On the other portal, the rest of the team finds a 3-person green zone and takes refuge. Do-ja refuses to leave Gilong behind and leaves him with Jung Hyuk before running off to draw the monster's attention. As the beasts tackle him, Do-ja eats a glowing rock, sending his body into the illusion prison, where he's safe from the monsters. However, he relives the painful memory of fighting his best friend to appease his bullies. After winning that fight, he learned that his friend later took his own life. This guilt has weighed on Do-ja ever since. Do-ja always hated the novel's ending, where Young Hyuk sacrificed people to save himself. Suddenly, Young Hyuk enters the illusion and tells Do-ja that he should have fought his bullies. The next morning, Do-ja wakes up in a private room, his team having protected him while fighting off monsters. Yansung is injured in the process. Do-ja realizes that today is the day Yansung faces the dragon and will likely die to save him. The voice announces that there are 57 survivors today. Bong informs them that the constellations are angry because some survivors helped each other instead of fighting. As punishment, there will be only one green zone. The last person standing on it wins. The green zone appears beneath Pildu, who remains unfazed. Do-ja approaches G and asks for her help, but she refuses. To make her feel guilty, he mentions how she killed her classmates in the first stage. G cries, but leaves anyway. Do-ja then calls Bong, who confirms the constellations love him and are donating large sums of money. Do-ja asks Bong to turn the money into coins and approaches Pildu, offering him all his coins in exchange for his help. Pildu Pildu agrees, handing over the glowing square to Do-ja. Do-ja smashes it with his sword, and the crowd tries to stop him. Finally, Ji understands and shoots the green zone, destroying it. With the light fading, Do-ja points out that if everyone had fought together from the beginning, no one would have died. He transfers the money to Pildu to finalize their deal, asking him to protect the remaining survivors. Pildu allows the crowd to enter his VIP zone for free. Pildu equips all the weapons he bought for his security system. As the monsters approach, he opens fire, quickly piling up their bodies by the portal. Some creatures manage to escape, but Do-ja, Sa, and Hee-won bring them down. Suddenly, the ground cracks open and a dragon appears, unleashing fire on the survivors. Ahn Hyo-seop fights the dragon with a combination of guns and sword, landing several strikes. However, the constellations aren't pleased by his high-level presence and raise the difficulty. The station shatters, transforming into outer space. The dragon's body morphs into a steel-like form, something not in the novel. Ahn Hyo-seop attacks, but his sword shatters, forcing him to summon a new one. Despite his efforts, the dragon overpowers him and stabs him with his own weapon. Do-ja swallows an item from his starter kit to protect him from the dragon's flames. Sa uses her web to pull Ahn Hyo-seop from the dragon's grasp, and Do-ja takes over the fight. The dragon continues to overpower him. While distracted, a massive monster tackles the dragon. It turns out that Gilong can control this bug, though he feels the pain it suffers. Unfortunately, the dragon is too strong and nearly kills the bug, risking Gilong's life. Yanung, refusing to lose another friend, awakens his special skill. His gauntlet transforms into a shield, blocking the dragon's attacks. The ground rises to protect him, and Sa creates a web bridge for Hee-won to leap onto. She lands on the dragon's back and slashes at it. With Yanung's help, they push the dragon down, and Do-ja tries to stab it. However, the dragon flies up to escape. A flashback reveals that the plan to defeat the dragon requires stabbing its core, but doing so will kill the attacker. The mission reward includes an item that can revive one person. Sa shoots her web, and Do-ja jumps to stab its chest, and Gilong shoots the dragon's chest to create a crack. The dragon pushes Do-ja off, and the wound closes, leaving the team with no hope. Just as they're about to give up, Ahn Hyo-seop finishes off the remaining monsters and charges at the dragon again. After a fierce exchange, he manages to pierce the dragon's core, but both he and the dragon are engulfed in flames. As in the novel, Ahn Hyo-seop's flaming body falls, and his skill activates to send him back. Do-ja watches as the others begin to disappear, thinking it's over. But then, he's shocked to see that the author has accepted his trade in the market, allowing him to ascend with the Ether of Fate. Do-ja immediately inserts it into his sword, transforming it into an attribute weapon. With the team keeping the dragon distracted, Do-ja jumps onto the dragon and finally kills it. The voice announces the stage is over, and Do-ja uses his reward to revive Ahn Hyo-seop. The station returns to normal, and Ahn Hyo-seop is stunned to see Do-ja alive, saved by the special sword. The crowd celebrates, and Do-ja is now sure that they can write a new ending for the story.